Hello and welcome to the Score Attack podcast. I'm Miodrag, your host, and with me tonight, as every night, is my co-host Johnny. Hello, Johnny.
Hello, Miodrag. The new and improved Miodrag.
Yeah, the new and improved Miodrag who actually has a decent mic.
So you can hear how horribly European we are.
Yeah. Look, like the last microphone. I listened to the headset just now and compared it to this new microphone, and it's like not the same person. So I can actually use my headset to fake crimes now.
Sure, that's... And announce it ahead of time on our podcast, so there's evidence. Good job. You've already ruined this.
No, I haven't ruined it. Look. I have to give the police a fair chance. That's how it goes.
Okay. That's not how it actually works.
It's how it works in comics and cartoons.
Yeah, okay. Fair. We're gonna do the whole video games are real life thing. Cool.
Yeah. Anyway, well, we have a lot to answer for. First off, we have been lacking in content recently because I have been dying from the plague, or however you pronounce it.
Yeah. You've been pretty sick. I Skyped in with you like a few times and it was like really pale.
Yep. But we have now that behind us. We're working on more content. We're working on more binary domain. Like this weekend, I don't know when this podcast is gonna go up. I hope soon. But like this weekend, we have binary domain back up, and we'll be continuing binary domain. We have more content planned, and there's Bloodborne coming up soon as well, and there's everything.
God, we need to finish binary domain before then.
Yeah. I mean, we're halfway through. We can finish it in like...
Yeah, assuming nothing else catastrophic happens.
Assuming, yes.
Which of course it will. Something catastrophic always happens. That's the rule.
Well, it's the rule when I'm let's playing. I don't want to know what's gonna happen when I start let's playing Bloodborne. My PS4 is probably gonna catch fire or something.
I hope not. That would be expensive to replace.
That's really fucking expensive, yes. But anyway, now that everybody's still freaking out about my voice, Johnny, let me ask you the quintessential question of this podcast. What have you been playing?
Well, I've been playing some Garou, most recently. Garou Mark of the Wolves, which we've already discussed at length before. The most I can say about it right now is that it's still really fucking amazing.
I completely agree. Oh, it's the best. Oh, thankfully, you finally admitted that it's better than Melee.
It's the best of its kind.
No, we already established this in the previous episode. It's podcast canon that Garou is the best fighting game of this podcast. There's nothing you can do about it.
Well, okay, if we're talking best, like, as in just most high quality, then sure, it is. It's better than Xrd, it's better than all Guilty Gears. It's just the best.
Yeah. Probably the only bad thing about it is that silly free escape throw bug. I don't know if you know about that.
No?
There's some... The reason why the grapple character is essentially super low tier is because there's a bug in the game. I don't know if they've removed it. But there's a bug in the game which lets you option select escape out of every throw, including command throws.
We talked about this before. Option selects are rubbish.
It's not intentional. It's literally a bug because it makes the grapple character complete trash because everybody can escape from his command throws.
Yeah.
So it's a bug. It's not actually intentional. Well, have you been playing anything else interesting aside from Mark of the Wolves?
I've been playing a game with shadows and dragons. I've been playing Shadowrun Dragonfall.
Ah, okay. How are you enjoying that one?
I am, but I also have like a long list of criticism towards it.
Well, that's nice. I mean, it's not a good RPG if there isn't a ton of stuff wrong with it.
Yeah, that's actually true. I haven't played a good RPG that doesn't have a long laundry list of what the fuck are you doing.
Exactly.
So, most of my problems with Shadowrun Dragonfall are plot things, so I'm going to be talking about the plot a bit, so if you don't like spoilers for that, probably skip ahead like 15 minutes.
Okay.
So, I'm not that far into it, but this game is so aware that it's a video game. It is so aware. The plot is just like, oh, how do we make this work as a video game plot instead of like as a believable world? Because everything is so fucking huge and high stakes. There's no like, oh, this is just some robbery or whatever. The guy you piss off at the start is like a mythological creature in the world that has a role in establishing the universe as it is. Like, but you basically piss off a dragon that is supposed to be dead and has a very like ground laying role in the mythological basis of this world. And that's okay. It's a video game, so let's roll with it. Let's keep going. And then you start involving like the legendary Dragon Slayer who took this person down, and on and on and on. The one I encountered just now, like the last thing I did in the game before quitting last night, was I was talking to this party member, Glory, and she, since I am a magical character, I read her aura and was like, well, there's something fucked up about this. Like, there's some being basically trapped in her soul, or rather, like, that looks at her soul all the time. And you start digging, and the way she phrases this in the most video game way possible. The thing she says is basically, I'm not ready to talk about this yet. Come back after the next mission, I will give you some nuggets. And then come back after the next mission and I'll give you some more. And it's like, it's so transparent that she's like, yeah, as you progress through the game, I'll tell you some more about it. And I'm going to tell you that outright. It's so transparent, but that's not the worst part. See, this demonic essence that's basically plaguing her soul is literally Satan.
Well,
it is literally Satan. It is the biblical devil.
Well, I mean, that's not too far-fetched in Shadowrun.
It's... But
look,
it's all these things. It just keeps all the major powers in this world converges around your little tiny team.
Yeah, you haven't played Deadman's Trigger, which was Shadowrun Returns. That's the name of like the campaign in the original one.
Not enough to comment on his plot anyway.
Yeah. Essentially, both games do that pen and paper thing, which is it starts off small as a kind of a local problem, and it slowly begins expanding more and more and involving more and more powers. Yeah. So that's the typical. I mean, yes, it's also video game structure, but it's primarily a pen and paper approach to things, and it's how most like pen and paper campaigns go, because the characters become stronger, so the stakes become higher. What I do think though in Dragonfall, the plot's gonna go places you don't expect. I don't
Perhaps, and like there are totally redeeming qualities to it already.
Yeah. It has, like, Dragonfall has much higher stakes, in the sense of you will see it visually affect a much, like, larger area as the story progresses, whereas in Shadowrun Returns, it's it was like it turns cataclysmic very quickly. Like, as in, if you fuck this up, the world's fucked. So you'll see. I think I get what you mean, and I know you're thinking, oh my god, Legendary Dragon Slayer, then Legendary Dragon, and then whatnot else. The delivery of it is pretty grounded and reasonable.
But that's the problem, I think. It plays it off as so serious and so grounded, but it keeps coming up with these super convenient ties to major figures, and I can't buy it. I just can't. And it's not enough with those like major things. It's the little things as well. Like, I did a mission where you go and deposit some money to talk to your informant that's going to work with you, and then you need to collect cash for her her to do a job, etc., etc. But one of the conversation options is like, if you have decking 4, you can tell her, I'm pretty sure I know your real identity. And I'm like, why would I be able to say that? Why is decking 4 enough for me to make a guess on the identity of this informer who is... Nobody knows who she really is. Nobody. And decking 4 is in the grand scale of Shadowrun. A 4 in a skill is not high. That's like you're just some person.
I think I can't remember what the answer for that one is, but I think you kind of guess her username or something. You don't guess her actual full-blown identity.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that part particularly, but yeah, I think you'll enjoy how the plot goes on further, to be honest.
I'm already enjoying it. Let's be clear. Apart from how convenient the plot is, most of the dialogue is well written. The characters are simple, but they work. And it's just so convenient. And then there's the other thing. I told you about this, but I'm gonna go through it and talk about it anyway. So there's this magic shop in the hub area.
Yeah.
Where if you go in, there's like a lady at the counter, and I'm like, oh, I'm assuming that's the shopkeeper, so I'm going to go talk to her. And basically what happens is your character gets mesmerized by her, unless you have enough willpower to resist it. You are then dragged into her daydream, where she basically has sex with your character. And you, like, your characters, the way they word it is, you are vaguely aware that ... things ... are happening.
Yeah.
Then you wake up, and she's standing there, and she's like blushing and being like, sometimes when I daydream, I pull people in with me. And you have two options. One of them is to be like, hey, no, wait, like, calm down, and be like, that's cool. And the other is to be angry because she used magic on you, which is... Where's the option, this is fucked up, you did something sexual to my character without consent? That option doesn't exist. The angry option is more angry about the magic part of this.
Well, that tells you more about the world, does it?
No, that tells me about the developers and their worldview, and that tells me kind of gross things about whoever wrote that segment.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I see you complaining like about a bunch of stuff that just either didn't encounter or didn't particularly care about. I mean, for example, that glory part. I mean, BioWare RPGs do that. They just don't explicitly tell you, come back. You just know, oh, the dialogue is looping now. I'm gonna come back after another mission.
Yeah, but it's like, to put it... I prefer that you break away more from those tropes instead of making them that explicit. It's just sort of... No character... No person would say that in that way that makes it that obvious.
Yeah.
That wouldn't happen.
I mean, if those are your biggest problems with Shadowrun Dragonfall, then it's probably Game of the Year for you.
No, it's not Game of the Year. It's a decent little RPG with problems. And as for the combat, I am enjoying that one as well, but it's also a bit like... And I get why it's like this, because it's based on a pen and paper thing, so you can't have people dying too fast. But everyone feels really bullet spongy. Like some random elf mage takes 3 shots to the head with a sniper rifle and lives. And it's like, why? Why?
There's this... just to give you an idea how stupid pen and paper systems can get. In New World of Darkness, the higher your skill is and your relevant attribute, so for example, I don't know, if you're shooting with a gun, it's dexterity plus firearms. So the more dots you have, the more dice you roll. But statistically, the more dice you roll, the less number of success dices you will have. So it's actually preferable. So you'll actually have a better chance of succeeding if you roll fewer dice, statistically. And it gets very stupid, but that's the kind of stuff you deal with. You throw 10 dice and you completely miss your target.
It's like pen and paper design where people who fail at board game design go.
I mean, yes and no, considering how... you say that, and the thing that comes to mind is, man, Fantasy Flight board games are so fucking broken. I don't know why. That's the first thing that came to mind.
Some of them are. Fantasy Flight employs a wide variety of designers. Some of them pretty good at their job, some of them less good at their job. And Fantasy Flight has always been more in the theme plus experimentation over super polish. They do some really polished products as well. I mean, Netrunner and stuff like that. But honestly, most of their polished things is that the things they build themselves are these big experimental crazy things, and then they buy up old games from other publishers that they aren't interested in printing anymore, and redesign the art and the components and re-release them as their own thing, and just make a greatest hits version of that old game. Do you know of Cosmic Encounter?
I've heard of it.
Cosmic Encounter came out in the 70s originally, and it's had 4 or 5 different publishers. The current version is by Fantasy Flight, and they took this old great game and made it super successful by just making the components beautiful, making the art really good, making it stand out, and then releasing expansions for it occasionally. And it's showing no signs of slowing down.
Cool.
And another example is, I have it on my shelf here, Lord of the Rings The Confrontation is an old design that's been... the original game hasn't existed in a long while, but they released Lord of the Rings The Confrontation Deluxe Edition, which I have, and I paid $30 for it. At the time, it was worth around $120 on eBay, because it was so rare. And now they printed up another run of it, but in a slightly different edition that's more portable and slightly less impressive. But they just keep doing that, and that's super cool with me. And yeah, Netrunner isn't even their own design originally. That's Richard Garfield's design. So it was with Wizards of the Coast, and they just bought the license.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Shadowrun. I was talking about the combat, and the combat in Shadowrun is very... I don't know how the combat in the pen and paper game is, but in the Shadowrun Returns engine, it's very XCOM. It's XCOM, but with more health and with more character customization. So Overwatch is a thing, but you have to unlock it by putting enough skills into using the specific gun.
I kind of like that the game isn't really that combat, not heavy, but I'd say it doesn't actually require you to make an optimized character, because I was running around with a gunman with high charisma, and high charisma doesn't do you anything aside from giving you social etiquette and summonings.
The summonings are really strong, though.
Yeah, but I literally, almost didn't use them. I just went with pistol user plus charisma because I wanted to play a hard-boiled detective.
Okay.
And the game never screwed me over for that.
So my current character is like, I'm a druid, and I have summoning stuff. I also have haste and haste 2 equipped, which means that if I don't have anything better to do in a combat, I just go, hey you, sniper, have 2 more actions.
Yeah, that's it. So I actually ended up doing that in the end with my pistol guy. I was just, okay, I have all this charisma, might as well just get haste and some crap.
And I also have basic proficiency with both pistols and shotguns, so I can, like, if someone tries to flank, I can just pull out my shotgun and do some decent damage with that. But other than that, it's like, I haste up the sniper, I summon something, and then I, like, I have an aura that is, like, plus aim.
I just keep using haste and glory because she has murder melee damage.
I use it on glory quite a bit. I use it on, I forget the orc's name.
I can't remember either.
Yeah, well, the weapon specialist orc that's just a monster with a sniper rifle or a shotgun.
Yeah.
The party I had on the last mission I went to was like Dietrich, Glory, me, the orc with the sniper rifle, and Dietrich also had a haste on, so we just started every fight by haste the orc, haste Glory, both run in and murder everything.
Man, D3 is like such a great character.
I like him. He's cool.
Yeah.
I like the line he had where he talks about being in a band, and my character's like, wait, you can sing? I used to be in a punk band. Fuck no, I can't sing.
Yeah.
It's so good, and those sort of things are why I play this game still, despite all my complaints about it.
It's great. I don't know, do you like the Decker, the annoying kid?
Oh no, fuck him. He's the worst.
He was like the punching bag of the group, but I still carried him along for stuff.
I mean, he's useful.
Yeah, but I mean, he was like, personality-wise, he was the punching bag.
Yeah, I just wish I had another, like, that's why I wish I had picked Decker, honestly, because then I could have all my favorite characters on, and now I have to pick who of Dietrich, Glory, and the Orc I have to not pick with me on a vision if I want a Decker with me.
Yeah.
Which means I don't see nearly as much of Dietrich as I want. Though he's still useful because he has a heal, so if I expect a lot of combat, I will pick him.
Yeah, I tended to mix it up. I mean, it's not as bad as in the first game. In the first game, because you didn't have manual saves, if you didn't pick a proper party for a mission, you were screwed. In the first game, a lot of people actually got screwed over by getting a side quest which is extremely above your level. And a lot of people started that side quest, didn't bring in enough supporting characters because the description of the mission was, oh, this is just a milk run, you just need to pick something up.
Isn't that always bad news?
Well, yeah, and I was about to pick that mission, and before I picked it, I just had a geisha yell at me on Steam and no, don't start that damn mission. Like, save money, get 2 more expensive party members, and then start playing the mission. And I actually know a few people who had to restart the game because they started that at auto-saved and they couldn't finish it.
That's awful design.
Yeah, it's awful. It's because it was impossible to do manual saves in the game. Like, that was their response. No, it's impossible to do manual saves.
Oh yeah, I should note, if you're avoiding the spoilers and you listen to this part, I think we're done talking about spoilers for Shadowrun for now.
Yeah. Let's talk about spoilers about another game.
Okay.
Hotline Miami 2.
Okay, if you care about spoilers for Hotline Miami 2, then why? But also, we're gonna be talking about this.
Before you skip ahead, I'm just gonna say Hotline Miami 2 is much, much worse than Hotline Miami 1, and now you're not gonna skip ahead because you have to listen to my blasphemous reasons.
Good plan.
Good plan. So, have you played Hotline Miami 1?
Yes, I did not like it.
Okay.
I liked its soundtrack.
Okay, so the good news is the only thing that is genuinely better than the first game is the soundtrack.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say the words, I wish I could buy just the soundtrack and not the game.
Well, I think you can.
No, you can't.
Not on Steam. You can't. You can't on Steam because it's DLC for the game, and it doesn't let you buy DLC without the base game. But I think you can probably buy it on an external site.
They have they have a. I think the only way to get the soundtrack is actually through bundles. They have the physical version that they send out, and that's with the soundtrack. But it's
the soundtrack is the same cost as the game, and it has 50 tracks. So it's pretty big.
Nice.
So here's the thing. With Hotline Miami 1, the general gist of it was, we're gonna do commentary on how game mechanics with violence and combat are essentially divorced from narrative, and narrative doesn't matter. And that was the commentary and the point of the game as far as I took it, and I didn't agree with the point. I think Aaron Signal actually did a really good episode on Hotline Miami 1.
Of course, because that's what he does.
Yeah. And actually, it makes the point of Hotline Miami 1 very clear, or at least that interpretation of Hotline Miami 1. And I don't agree with the point in the sense of I don't agree with what Hotline Miami 1 was trying to prove. But at least you could kind of get behind it in the sense, okay, I get the point you're making.
I get it as well. They do this thing where they start posing these questions like, do you enjoy killing? And they basically try to ask like, does it matter that what you're doing is killing? And then they answer it at the end by being like, no, it doesn't. The narrative doesn't matter.
Yeah, it also does this moment where the game essentially doesn't have a plot. You're just you get a call, you do something, you get a call, you do something, you get a call, you do something, and just like loops like that with this fever dreamish cutscenes that may or may not mean anything. And then halfway through the game gets a plot and it gets a point, and then your missions have story context. But as the game ends, it's still like the narrative still feels like a flat line. It still doesn't feel like it delivers on anything.
It doesn't make a very good, strong case for its argument, because it's like the most interesting part to many players of Hotline Miami 1 was the plot. I talked to so many people who were like, I need to know what's happening. I need to know where this is going. And then the game just goes, no, we're just trying to demonstrate that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, because like you'll play and you'll do everything regardless, and you'll enjoy it regardless. And
I didn't.
It's not a point I agree with, but what Hotline Miami 2 does is it kind of tries to build up the lore of the whole world of Hotline Miami, which apparently is completely different from the real world. So when I played Hotline Miami 1, for me it looked like, this is like the 90s, like real world 90s, except, there's a maniac causing shit and, killing Russian mobsters.
Yeah.
But actually, as you play Hotline Miami 2, you actually realize that it's actually an alternate history. It's not the real world. It's like a real, honest to goodness. For example, there's this Vietnam-like flashback levels, but it's not Vietnam. It's Hawaii under Russian occupation.
Huh.
So, and for example, like San Francisco was bombed a few years before the events in Hotline Miami 2. So it does these things, like it builds this world which is actually different from real world history. But it's and what feels so odd is obviously because it's alternate history, but 20 years ago, which is extremely recent, and I don't know how many people do that. But what they gotta do is, so they build up this world, and rather than having a maniac killing a bunch of people, what happens in 2 is this kind of like legend of the Miami killer kind of goes into the subconsciousness of everybody. So now we're going to spoiler territory, and this is kind of my liberal interpretation of events. The subconscious idea of that killer, with all the hearings and the trials and the video adaptions and whatnot, they all kind of go into consciousness of humanity, and you have this kind of like violence seeping into civilization, and people are becoming more and more mad. Like you see, like you play as a cop who participates in more and more violent killings. Like he's looking for a serial killer, but also he goes gung-ho and kills a cartel because he wants to. And because he can. You have a writer who is against violence, but, sometimes loses it and then, violently kills a man. And you have all these things, like everybody becoming more and more destructive, and it's kind of like raising the pressure in the city. And that's kind of how the story goes, and you follow all these people who are participating in that violence for different reasons. And that's kind of the interesting part the part I liked about the plot, because you have like these, like the span of 15 years and all the people and why they're doing violence in it. And some of them are just like emulating the killer, which is the boring part. But then you have the two interesting characters, like the detective, because you can't figure out why the hell he's doing what he's doing. And then you have the writer who's trying to write a book about the killer, the original Hotline Miami killer. But like his family is falling apart in the process, so he's like more or less foregoing his family so he could finish that book finally. And those are kind of the interesting parts. But then what happens is Hotline Miami pulls a Hotline Miami, and everybody dies because a nuke falls on Miami.
Okay.
Like that's literally because it keeps, like, the plot keeps going and going and going, and major characters you play die, some survive, and then you get some insight. How did this guy survive? How did this guy, kill all these people? And you get all this context, but before any kind of resolution comes for most of the characters, just like a nuke falls, and it's not like you find a nuke and you detonate it, or a major character detonates. It's like literally at the end of the game, there's a cutscene where one character hears on the radio how the president has been assassinated, like the president of the United States and the Russian president have been assassinated, and then 10 minutes later, nukes.
So it's basically like a nuclear war starts.
A nuclear war starts, yeah.
And it has no relation to the plot?
The only relation to the plot is that the person who assassinated the presidents was your commander in the Hawaii / not Vietnam sections of the game, but who went mad 20 years later.
That seems like rubbish writing to me.
It seems like, to me, it felt like disrespectful writing, because they made some very interesting characters. Like, they even with the cast is gigantic. You play, I don't know how many characters you play. Like, you go through four different characters in one, 5 characters in one group. Then you have the detective, the writer, you have some Southern Patriot guy, you have a mobster, another mobster. You have like almost 10 characters you play through, and some of them are actually interesting, and their motivations are actually, kind of interesting if you want to figure them out. But then you just throw everything to the wolves, like some kind of, artistic statement to, no, nobody gets a story.
I don't get why you would do any of this stuff. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand.
I mean, I'm sure there's a reason. I don't like it, whatever the reason is. I don't like how it feels. And now we're like spending, oh my god, you spent like 10 minutes talking about Hotline Miami 2's plot. I don't like the gameplay either, because the gameplay is based around much larger areas and a much bigger focus on firearms, which doesn't work well with the game. I know, like, the first game was really focused on melee weapons, like, you could just play with melee weapons, which is also not good, but the top-down engine kind of works much better with melee than it does with shooting. You know, the shooting in Hotline Miami doesn't feel that good, in my opinion. But the second one is, you know, you can, like, aim, and you can lock on to enemies, and you can look ahead of yourself. And in many cases, three things are constant in the levels. One, enemies with firearms will be outside of your look farther ahead range. So even if you look farther ahead, you won't see the enemies that will kill you if you go that way. So that's like the first issue. And especially because in Hotline Miami 1, if an enemy with a firearm saw you, and I tested this recently, I actually replayed a bit of the first one recently. If an enemy with a firearm saw you, you still had a chance to kind of try and dodge it or avoid it or react quickly. In Hotline Miami 2, there is no breathing room. If they see you with a firearm and you're not behind the corner, you're dead. So, and the second thing is, because there are such big areas, if you die while you're cleaning up, after you clean up most of the area, if you still die, you have to replay much bigger chunks of floors than you did in Hotline Miami 1, which can get really, really frustrating at times. And the final kind of, like, you know, nail for me is the most optimal way to play, and sometimes the only way you can play to beat a level. You have to kite enemies to doorways and just kill them in the corner. Like, as they move through the corner, just, like, camp and kill everybody. Because that'll be, in many cases, the only way you can actually, you know, finish a level.
There are too many enemies or something?
No, it's because everybody's equipped with firearms, which they shoot instantly and very precisely. Your only window to actually kill them is either by sniping them from the distance or by going behind corners, because they can't shoot through walls. So they have to go, as they reach the corner, you just pop out and hit them. And you have the situation where, as you look at the map, instead of having this more even out number of bodies you've left behind, you have them all stacked behind one door, because that's the only way you can beat some levels. It's not really, well, I don't think they did anything differently from the first game, except make the levels bigger. But by making the levels much bigger and putting in more emphasis on range combat, that kind of showed how the original game's combat system does not scale.
Yeah, I didn't even really like the original's combat, I'll be honest. I thought that it's just so zoomed in and you move so fast compared to the camera that it's just disorienting in a way I did not find conducive to how the game plays.
I did like the first game's combat because it was kind of like bite-sized, in the sense of, you know, you can see most of the area you have to go through, you can plan ahead, and it's kind of like half stealth, half puzzle game, where you just have to predict, you know, where to go and what to do in a given moment, and then you just execute it. And I know I kind of liked how it flowed, because how it flowed is like you go in, you hit one guy, you throw your weapon at the guy with a firearm to disable him, you run into him, execute him, take the firearm, grab the attention of the enemies nearby by shooting in a wall or something, and then like get them in the trap and all that. And this one, that's kind of missing. Because what you're doing is you lock on to an enemy that's patrolling to keep tabs on him, because he'll go off screen and he can see you before you see him, even with far sight, like with using shift to see farther ahead. So you have to keep tabs on enemies by using that lock on mechanic. And it just keeps pigeonholing you into this one single style of play.
Yeah, I don't like. I get why people liked 1. In theory, I like the idea with these smaller areas that you just look at and try to figure out the optimal path through. I just never felt like I had tight enough control to make that executable in a way that doesn't take many tries, even when I know what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I get what you mean, and the thing is, I think that worked for many people in 1, because all the levels were kind of, in most cases, bite-sized. This, because everything's so big, the game is much harder as well. You know, now going to replaying 1 after playing 2, like 1 is a cakewalk. 2 is brutal, but it's often brutal for the wrong reasons, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I don't think this is far from the the general consensus on the game either. Most people who liked 1 does not seem to like the second.
Yeah,
at all.
And it's so hard to actually discuss 2's faults, because a lot of the counter arguments I get from people are, oh, what, like 1 wasn't so good, you know, it had a melee focus, this is just a focus on a different weapon, or people just raging at bad reviews and bad comments of Hotline Miami 2 because, oh my god, Hotline Miami 2 has a fantastic story, it's so deep, and it's not, you know, I don't feel any depth in 2. The depth in 2 comes from the fragmented storytelling and you figuring out what happens when and what character did what. That's the depth of 2. The depth in 1, even if you don't like agree with the point, you still realize, oh, okay, this is a contrast between violence without context and violence with context.
Yeah.
And 2 doesn't do any of that. 2 is, you know, 2 is that the things that happen in 2 are very clear and cut when you look at them. It's very clear and cut what happens. There's no kind of 2 ways about it. Even the most surreal level, like the final level in 2, which is this big drug trip where everything is hyper stylized, even then it's very clear what's happening. And the only thing that's obscure about 2 is, you know, when did this happen? Or all the questions that are left unanswered, like why is the detective doing all those killings? But that's left unanswered because, you know, the writer threw a nuke on everyone.
Yeah, I think we're done talking about this. I don't think this is worth more of our time.
Yeah, all in all, I don't recommend Hotline Miami 2 if you liked Hotline Miami 1. I recommend Hotline Miami 2 when the little editor comes out, and then you have all those angry people who liked 1 and didn't like 2 making levels that are more like 1. But even then, you know, it's only a soundtrack and a gore visual update. I don't think that's... Yeah, I'm just gonna say one more thing, like, in 1, you had masks that kind of gave you a little perk, makes the gameplay different. In 2, for better or worse, each character has something like hard ingrained in them that's unique. So there's no longer choosing masks. There are characters who have masks, but in general each character has their own shtick that you have to deal with. And you have to play them because the story demands.
I think that could be a good thing if you do it well. The way people complain about it doesn't sound like it's done that well.
No. There are a lot of good ideas, which is a shame. I mean, I do like the storytelling approach. I do like the idea of this, you know, alternative Miami where everybody's slowly going mad. I think if they just didn't throw the nuke and kill the cast, seeing that story escalate to a top climax would have been much more interesting than anything else.
Quite possibly. I don't know. I find it hard to be interested at all.
Well, excuse me for playing underwhelming games. I expected more of it too. I pre-ordered that thing.
I don't pre-order games.
Yeah. Well, knowing my track record, like, the next horrible game is gonna be Bloodborne.
I'm still amazed you pre-ordered that after everything.
That shows you that I still appreciate the good parts of Dark Souls, even if I get frustrated because it sometimes pisses all over the good parts.
So, speaking of Dark Souls, we were planning, before we cancelled that LP, we were planning to make a video of me like going through and showing some secrets with that game. And I recorded something along those lines yesterday.
Nobody will ever see the light of day of it.
I don't know if I'll release it or not in some form, but if I do, it will probably be pretty edited, because there's a lot of stuff in there that I like. Okay, and this should trigger this thing, which, oh no, it glitched.
Sounds like my playthrough.
No, not that kind of glitch. It's like, oh, and here this secret character should appear that has a relevance to the story that only appears if you do these things. And, oh, basically what happened was that I tried to trigger too many of them and like got too clever, and I tried to get too clever and just get to see everything in one playthrough. And the way I must have fucked up the order of events at some point, so I couldn't trigger all of the secrets I wanted.
So Dark Souls punished you for your hubris.
Yes. We'll say that's that.
Well, that's how it always happens. Like, the game punishes you always for being too cocky.
I mean, we need to release it because it has me beating Manus in 2 tries. Not that we released the footage of you trying Manus either, but...
Well, we released the footage of me trying to get to Manus. Which I think
that elevator, man.
Which I think is a bigger challenge.
The best part? I used that elevator 3 times.
And it didn't...
It happened once.
I have to know your reaction to that.
I was like... I saw it coming, because I saw that the camera did similar things that it did on your, and I was like, okay, here we go. And oh, I stopped in midair.
I wonder if it has anything to do with OBS recording.
I don't think so, because I've recorded that before. I think it's an interaction between DSFix and the Steamworks patch, because that bug did not exist before the Steamworks patch.
I actually think I saw... No, I saw some reports of that bug before the Streamworks version.
Are you sure?
Yeah, but it was like 3 people total on the forums.
Maybe it's just become more common then. I don't know. Like, I just ended up, like... I've never seen that bug, and I've used that elevator a shit ton before.
Well, I've seen that bug a shit ton before.
Yeah,
Hopefully Bloodborne only has ladders. Ladders never betrayed me.
That video also has me like talking a bit about the lore, and it has some interesting stuff, but like it's not as good when I have to tell people about it instead of having the NPCs that are relevant actually show up.
I think you need to make another character to demonstrate that. What? I thought Dark Souls was your favorite game.
Dark Souls is the best game of the last generation, and I have finished it 5 times. I think I'm kind of done with it.
Yeah, I think it's time that you move to the best game of the generation before that, which was God Hand.
You know that that's not next on the list. We both know that that's not next on the list. You know that I don't even have a working PS3 controller at the moment.
I know. Well, we're so close. You have the capture card.
I have the capture card.
And soon we'll have the game. We're so close. I can feel it.
But I'm not even sure I'm gonna do it as the one after that. Like, I have like 4 different Let's Play games that I want to do, and one of them is the game you want me to do.
Well, I want you to have any game you like, Johnny, because I support your endeavors.
Hoonipop Let's Play coming up on Score Attack.
No.
No, never.
No, that's like not happening ever.
Of course not.
I'm making this like Score Attack official. We are never LPing that game, so help me God. Let's see if I can add another game to the ban list. But I think like that's literally one of the rare games I'm just gonna say no, we're never doing that.
I can think of a few, but they aren't worth mentioning even. There are games that I am not ever mentioning on air because they aren't worth... Their name shall never be mentioned.
I mean, okay, we still have all those Call of Duties and Battlefields.
No, that's not even it. That's not even it.
Now I'm curious, name one at least.
No?
Fine. I'll find out which games those are and we're gonna play them next.
You're not going to want to play them. Anyway, have you been playing anything that is good?
I have... during rare periods of lucidity while I was sick, I finished The Wolf Among Us, and I finished Shovel Knight.
I don't think I have anything relevant to say about The Wolf Among Us, but let's talk about Shovel Knight.
Yeah. Well, Shovel Knight is fun. That's pretty much all I can say after playing it.
It's a retro-ish, like, 2D action platformer, sort of similar to Mega Man in style, but like you're not a ranged character, and like sort of similar to those sorts of things. And it's a bit Castlevania, and it's a bit everything.
It's a retro game which seems like something that could have been made back in the day, and doesn't actually, point just like verbatim copy anything. It's not
it takes inspiration from a bunch of stuff and it makes it their own. It has the cane bones from DuckTales.
Yeah.
But it only has it if you land on an enemy, so you need to so it does its own interpretation of that, and it makes it a thing you use in combat rather than just a traversal tool.
Yeah, and then
cool.
the map is like Mario 3, except it expands linearly instead of you just going to a new map. And I don't know, you can equip items like in Castlevania games and use them to attack, and it's like you can see a lot of mechanics that are, this seems like something from there, but nothing that makes you go, this is obvious reference to XY game.
So because I have to have a complaint about every game, I do have an actual complaint about Shovel Knight. I have one.
Yeah.
One complaint about Shovel Knight.
Yeah.
The character takes a bit longer to stop after letting go of the move button than it should.
Oh, there's an armor that makes it even worse in that regard.
Okay. That's great.
There's literally an armor called Momentum Armor, which decreases the knockback after you're hit, but also increases the amount of time it takes for you to stop after moving.
That's weird. I don't know why you would have that. Why is that? Whatever.
Honestly, the only armor I bought all the armor and I used each a bit, but I went back to the default armor because I felt that Shovel Knight needs to be in his recognizable blue armor.
Totally. So, it's a pretty good action game. It's like I won't call the actual game design that amazing or anything. It's good. It's solid. The thing that really elevates Shovel Knight above most things like it is that the soundtrack is one of the best things I have ever heard.
It's Jake Kaufman, right?
Jake Kaufman making an 8-bit retro soundtrack with, like, just Google Shovel Knight Strike the Earth.
Yeah.
And you will find something amazing. Just that soundtrack is great. And if you enjoy that, you should play the game, because it's also a good game.
Yeah, also, one thing that I'll also say as general advice when people are writing stories or games, I think Shovel Knight is a good example of a quality delivery of a silly story, because the setting is silly, the knights are silly. I mean, you're fighting knights like King Knight, Mole Knight, Treasure Knight, and I don't know what else.
Yeah.
And everything's so silly, but all the characters and everything that happens, all the characters play it straight. So, Shovel Knight meets his old nemesis, Black Knight, who also fights with a shovel, and they have a shovel duel, but each of them is serious about it. It's not, hey, audience, check out, we're using shovels, isn't that hilarious? And then everybody laughs. No, it's not like that.
It's just a visual gag that they don't comment on, and it's just legitimately part of the design of the world.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of games, stumble with that, like, oh, look how zany and crazy we are, or, oh, look how old school we are, here's 10 billion references. And I mean, the best old school games, like, they do have those references, but they don't make a big deal out of it. Like you had Dust and Elysian Tale. The only big reference in that one was the wall chicken.
That game, if you're into retro-styled 2D side-scrolling action-adventure things, holy shit, Dust and Elysian Tale is one of the best ones you could possibly play.
Yeah, because it takes...
I love it.
It takes the formula of, Symphony of the Night and other, successful mechanics and does something with them. It understands them, which is why, people say, oh, I'm so sick of these retro games being released. Well, no, you're sick of all these bad retro games being released. The good retro games actually understand the mechanics and why and how they're expanding upon them.
People who are so sick of all retro-style games being released need to stop whining. There's such a variety of games coming out all the time.
Yeah. I mean, if you're sick of your retro games, you can play something modern like The Order 1886.
I actually watched a friend play that recently, and deep breath. I think I kind of love that game.
As in it's so bad?
No, and actually I think I'd hate playing it because the combat looks so fucking boring, but I love the characters. They are so incredibly self-serious, I can't help but just love it. Because it's just... It's so self-serious about it. It's amazing.
I don't know, I'm just not too into... I'm very picky about cover shooters.
Yeah, and I'm not into them either. As I said, I would probably hate playing it. But just watching the cutscenes, watching the character interactions, everyone is such an asshole. Everyone is so serious about everything. And it's just, everything is the end of the fucking world. And they sell it so straight and so serious that it's like, yeah, sure, whatever. This is dumb in the best way possible. Let's go.
Oh, one more thing I wanted to say about Shovel Knight. You know what my actually, favorite little mechanic in the game is? The dream sequences.
Oh, right, those, yeah.
I think that's, really cool touch.
They are. My favorite little thing in that game is that you get these piles of just gems stuck in the ground and you have to dig them out for score. And it's like, okay, whatever, sure.
Yeah.
Because you have a shovel, so of course you would.
Yeah. And I do like the death penalty in the game. I think it's just annoying.
I think it's okay.
Yeah, it's annoying enough that you don't want to die, but it's not earth-shattering.
It's a bit like
Yes.
Dark Souls.
Yeah, it's totally Dark Souls. There's no two ways about it. It's completely
Yeah, okay,
Dark Souls.
that one we make a lot of dumb Dark Souls references on this show, but that one is legitimately they just took the bloodstain mechanic.
Yeah, because like
more or less.
when you die, a percentage of your gold is left at the place where you died, and you have to get to it without dying to regain the gold.
Indeed.
Okay, anyway, I think, yeah, we covered about everything again, so now that I'm healthy, we shall be going back to our almost daily content schedule.
I am glad that I put almost daily in that description.
Yeah. We're probably gonna have to do, at some point, just turn into a regular content schedule rather than almost daily.
Yeah, but...
Because we're gonna need some time to pick up speed again.
But even then, like, we should really not try to hold ourselves to a daily content schedule. We should just do whatever we think fits best.
Yeah. Well, now that I bought a microphone, there's no going back, Johnny. This is it.
There's no going back. Even if the internet explodes, we'll find a way to keep doing this.
Yes, I mean, I have like the mic, the capture card is in the mail. I have invested like so much money in this hobby now that's, well, we're taking it seriously now. We have to make it big now.
I have invested quite a bit of money into this, but I think I've also invested more into Netrunner.
Well, that doesn't count. That's a card game.
Sure it counts. Sure it counts. Anyway, yeah, we'll be having content for you this coming week. That's cool, right?
Yeah, and for our next podcast, we have a special surprise planned.
Yes, a surprise.
The biggest surprise ever. Nobody's gonna see it coming.
No, I don't think anyone will.
Yeah.
It would be weird if they saw.
It would be really fucking weird, like somebody just says, "Oh yeah, we knew you guys would be doing that." Like, what? How the hell did you know?
Yeah, there's no way for anyone to know, and we are overselling this so much now.
We are now. The expectations are like sky high.
We are horrible. It's. I mean, at least we'll surprise people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, we should probably end this before we promise something horrible.
I already said bye. Why are you doing diddly-daddling there?
To annoy you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.